Welcome to Unity Christ Center's virtual Sunday service. I'm Reverend Mahannah, Unity Minister. The title of my talk today is Love's Relationship Mirrors. Reading from Scripture, Mark 3:31. Then his mother and his brothers came, and standing outside, they sent to him and called him. A crowd was sitting around him, and they said to him, "Your mother and your brothers and your sisters are outside asking for you." And he replied, "Who are my mother and my brothers?" And looking at those who sat around him, he said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister and mother." Our relationship to life, to ourselves, to God, and to others reveals our interconnectedness to one another. Because our souls, taking physical form through our physical parents, comes from the source, we are all related. In Native American language, of course, the expression is all my relations, referring to everything in the natural world as well as to all human individuals. Jesus expressed it as whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister and mother. And what is the will of God? To love. To love God and to love one another as ourselves. The intensity of this COVID pandemic has required us to take certain precautions to slow down the contagion of the disease. Although the requirements are changing, we may continue to work only with a select few if we're considered essential workers and are working out in the workplace, or we may continue to work only from home and be quarantined with our partner or close family members. Or we may be completely isolated from others if we're living alone. What is happening without the distraction of compulsively running around is that we're confronted with our own perception of self in the give and take of our relationships. And that is what I want to address today. Have you been experiencing greater friction in your current relationships, or have you been experiencing greater appreciation for those that you're in relationship with? Alone with time for self-observation, I've discovered that I'm at times much more critical of myself in this environment, more irritable with the things and even with the creatures that surround me here in the woods. I've also observed family members and friends and their partnership, when I've been with them, of a greater irritability in their relationships. Yet at other times, I've witnessed in others and with myself a growing compassion for our responses in this unprecedented time. This time of more restricted living is giving us an opportunity to examine who we are, how we choose to be in relationship, and to ask what our relationships are mirroring back to us. For with understanding comes increased compassion. Almost everything Jesus taught was about relationships. Our relationship to the divine, as in his words, "Honor the Lord thy God," and "the Father and I are one." Our relationship to ourselves is in when he said, "Know ye not that ye are gods?" And our relationship with one another, as in, "Love one another, even as I have loved you, and forgive them that spitefully use you." Relationships are the most important aspect of life because it's through relationship that we experience and express who we are and who we choose to be. Our relationships reflect back to us our own consciousness and aspects of ourselves. In truth, we are in relationship not only to a significant other, if we have one, to family members, friends, or co-workers, but we are in relationship to everything and everywhere, all my relations. But first of all, we're in relationship to ourselves as we consciously come to know and understand who we are. Our relationships are mirrors that enable us to examine our core beliefs, to redefine who we are and how we interact with our world. The law of attraction ensures that what we send out comes back, in consciousness as well as in action. As children, we were dependent on a relationship with our caregivers in order to survive. As we grew, and if the maturing process continued in a healthy way, we eventually became independent, seeking to do things on our own and making decisions for ourselves, thus becoming self-sustaining. Of course, our independence could have been delayed or retarded if our parents ceaselessly criticized our decisions, causing us to doubt our own abilities and to stay dependent on them, or if our parents continually rescued us from the results of our choices. It's only when we have to live with the consequences of our choices that we begin to make the conscious connection between our choices and their results in our life. Then we mature in understanding and are motivated to choose differently. Independence is necessary in our growth, but it's not the final step toward maturity. With growing awareness through more life experiences and with inspiration, we eventually understand that we are interdependent with all life. We begin to realize that what is essential first is a relationship with the divine source of all, God, and with the God spark within ourselves and within all others. With that awareness comes the realization that we determine our own consciousness, and the world reflects back to us our consciousness through our relationships. This realization can inspire us to lift up our thoughts about ourselves, knowing we are in truth one with our brothers and sisters. We have the God-given creative ability with inspired understanding to change our minds and thus change our lives by interpreting and responding to life's experiences differently. Your choices in life and your responses and interactions in all your relationships offer you the opportunity of experience. You are not your experience. You are more than that. You are the energetic result of that which your experience has shown you. You determine how your experience is interpreted. I believe that we've come to this world to know ourselves in all ways. Our experience of extremes allows us to discover our inner balance. If we learn to choose each commitment of life with the intent of being fully present and with the intent to do the best that we're capable of in that moment, we'll come to know ourselves more fully, and life becomes more joyful and expansive with less projection onto others. Our relationships then reflect more positive interactions back to us. Somewhere in the millenniums past, we forgot our unity with Creator, and we forgot our unity with all of life. Somewhere in the past, we became convinced that we were separated from God. In that delusion, 3 universal psychological fears arose in our minds that we're still coping with. In my understanding, those 3 are these: the fear of abandonment and separation, the fear of not being worthy, and the fear of surrender and trust. The truth is, each of us desires to belong. Each of us desires to be considered worthy of good. And each of us desires to truly trust and experience the benevolence of the universe. And until we can dissolve the fears with the realization of truth, these fears will continue to show up in the reflections of our life experiences in relationships. The law of attraction works in this way. We know that when we change our consciousness, our experiences change. When fear and pain show up in our lives, they're there to be healed. Fear and pain are a call for love and understanding in order for us to experience greater wholeness, greater healing. Greg Braden, in his book Walking Between the Worlds, suggests some of the ways these three universal fears can be reflected in our relationships as the law of attraction is revealed. I suggest it for you that would like to know more in this regard. My question is, what are your relationships mirroring back to you of your perception of yourself, of your understanding of your life experiences? What are your relationships mirroring back to you of your beliefs about God and about your understanding of our interrelations and relatedness? Remember that relationships are your opportunity to see yourself in multiple ways. As you interact with others, each relationship mirrors a reflection back to you of your beliefs, judgments, bias, or lack of bias. So how do we heal our fears? I believe it's with understanding, by first identifying them. And by that I mean by bringing them into a conscious awareness. As we journey through life, pieces of our lives may be lost, innocently given away or taken away from us by those who've had power over us. Those portions of ourselves are our compromises, exchanged for surviving our experiences of life. As Greg Braden affirms, recognizing the patterns and masks of survival as they play out through our relationships is an accelerated path of learning, of choice. Calling back those pieces of ourselves that we may hold dear may be our highest expression of personal mastery. When we are inexplicably drawn to someone, we may be seeking to fill our missing parts with someone else who seems to have what we're missing. If we're willing, the question to ask is, what do I see in this person that I have lost, given away, had taken away, or forgotten about myself? Almost immediately with your mind, the response will come to you. Answers are often single-worded or short phrases, but your body knows what is meaningful to you and will respond. Pay attention. Your responses will bring to mind what has been missing. With your new awareness, you can call back that which has been lost. Sometimes we may think we have to possess another person in order to be whole. The truth is, they may be there as a reminder of what we seem to be missing, but they cannot give us what we've lost. We must find that within ourselves. Again, if you're willing, ask these questions of yourself. What do I see in this person that I've lost, given away, had taken away, or forgotten about myself? They will activate the remembering, and you can call it back with your intention and sacred purpose. Likewise, we often enter into a relationship with another individual for what we believe we need from them. We learn about our own neediness in those relationships, but as we learn to love ourselves more and trust more in the relationship we have with our Creator, we become less needy. In truth, the less you need someone, the more you can truly love them. You may appreciate what they give you, but you love them then not for what they give you, but simply for who they are. And the less they need you, though they may appreciate what you offer them, the greater they can love you, not for what you can give them, but simply for who you are. In closing, there is a single source of all that is or may ever be. Everyone, without exception, is part of the one. Your life mirrors to you your quest to know yourself in all ways, discovering your extremes in order to find your balance, your grace. Your relationships are mirrors for your self-understanding. You have life experiences, but you are not your life experiences. You are more than that. You are the energetic result of that which your experience has shown to you. You determine how your experience is interpreted and what it means to you. Each and every experience drawn to you without exception is your opportunity to gain and demonstrate your mastery of life and to know thyself, your holy self. So we thank God for relationships that mirror our awareness back to us. May you be blessed with greater sacred self-awareness in all your relationships this week. Blessings. The meditation will follow separately.